Hi. So I'm home alone. My son has gone to work, and his young lady that has been popping over isn't here, so I can make as much noise as I want. Woohoo! Sorry, I really needed to do that. What a day today's been. I got myself up. I managed to get up early enough to get myself together and be out the door. Pretty impressed I was. I parked up at a retail park because the dentist that I'm at is like, well, it's got no parking facility, so it's a bit pants for that, but I had to use a nearby retail park. Crossed over on my power chair, the back bit that clips the connection for your power chair, that decided to dislodge as I was halfway across a road as the crossing lights had changed. There was a young man that, say young man, he's about the same age as my son, looked in his early 20s. He was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Not really, no." This is, I think my power has just undone itself on the back of the chair. So he basically he stood there whilst the cars, obviously they weren't going to go, but you never know. There could be some dickhead on the outside, the opposite end of where I was, that would have just decided, you know what, I need to go. So yeah, this chap, he stopped the traffic just in case, and I was panicking. I was like, nothing worse. The lights are waiting, well, they're about to change. They aren't going to wait for me, are they? They're just going to go for it. So yeah, I was in a bit of a panic, and he was really nice. I said, "Thank you very much." Got over the road. And then there's a sign on the door that says that we've all gone for lunch. I'm like, marvellous. So it's like a complete shutdown, so everybody goes for dinner at the same time. So lady let me go in front of her when the door opened, and yeah, looked on the screen of the computer, and she was like, "I'm very sorry, but it's Friday, your appointment." I was like, "Nice." Took me all my time to get here for this one, and it wasn't actually the day, so hey ho. So I had a bit of a browse. I went to TK Maxx, had a look round, and managed to get a couple of bits. I got some hangers that have got like that flocked velvety feel around the outside. I'm trying to change all my clothes onto those. I need a load of those hangers, but I managed to find a great big bundle of them for like £6. So I was like, that'll do. And I got a plastic cheese grater, which is supposed to be more safer and better. So I got one of those for like £3. And then I went to the pet place, Pets for Home. No, what's it called? Just for Pets. That's the one. Just for Pets. So I went there. I was completely out of the benevo and the army cat food, the biscuits that I've been buying for these guys. They've been on it a few weeks. And I will be honest, they've been doing absolutely brilliant. I have found that, and I've had cats now for a lot of years. Gizmo is 10, and he was my first cat, and it's been a case of, he's not been a bad cat with all his foods. He's been okay. Then I had Minnie come along, and there were issues with her sometimes. I changed the food, I tried different brands. Then I had Charlie come along. He was a street cat, dumped on the streets. He was a village cat. I asked who does he belong to. Everybody was like, oh, he's not mine, but we feed him. And then some would say that he tried jumping on the work surface because he was so hungry. So he tried to rob off the foods, you know, what they had in their kitchen and stuff like that. And I just wanted to get him sorted out so he was done, and because he was so full of fleas and he was grotty and no one gave a monkeys about him, but I did. And somebody in the village was like, oh, you own him now, you know, you have him. So I got him sorted out on a voucher. They gave me cats protection. They gave me a voucher to help me out with the cost of some of his health issues, you know, that needed tidying up because he was a stray. And he wasn't too bad for food, but sometimes he would be a bit sickly. And I just put it down to eating too much. Then we had Elsa Alfie come along as babies. And on the same next day, my then fella brought along his mother's cat, who was literally on death's door, and I had to sort her out. And then, you know, trying to feed those, there were some that were being sick, some were okay. And just put it down to overeating. And then I had JJ, who was my dementia cat. The vet was going to put him to sleep. A neighbour across the way who used to be my cleaner, she was like, would you want to take on an elderly cat? The vets were going to put him to sleep at the end of the day if no one takes him. No one wants him. And so went and saw him and had him. And he was gorgeous. Then there was Bob. And that was it. I was full. My ginger cat, Bob. And then, yeah. And then there was Sadie, her owner was going to go. He was needing to go into some care facility and stuff and needed someone to take his cat, who was an older cat. No one was interested and all the rest of it. So I had her. Right, it was full. It was full. I had 9 cats and I did what I did. Some of them were okay. Sometimes they were thrown up. My then boyfriend would put down, he would cook far too much and he put the food down off his plate, and some of them used to be really, really ill. So I put the health issues of some of them being poopy and all the rest of it down to what he was feeding them. Then we lost Jay. His dementia got to the point of like where he was seriously couldn't remember how to feed, so he had to be put to sleep. I had him for 10 months. Yeah, I had him for 10 months. And then we had a lovely cat called Judy, who her owner went into a care home, and I just fell in love with her. She was beautiful. She'd been rehomed something like about 7 times. And every time somebody had her, they brought her back. So she was like backwards and forwards like a yo-yo and didn't trust people. I was a really, really crotchety, really angry cat. But I was determined to work on her. You know, so that was my cat. Then when I got rid of my then boyfriend, who was abusive and controlling, I knew it was time to let Sadie be put to sleep. She was really bony. She had arthritis issues. He refused to let her be put to sleep. But that's one of the things I did. Then Judy got sick. She literally, her back legs were giving way. She was weeing all over the place. She had no control. She was all over the place, and it was quite scary how she was. So I took her to the vet to be put to sleep as well. There were times where I'd find the cats had pooed in places that was just awful. And I just put it down to, well, I was so stressed out at the time, it was really difficult. I never really thought that it could have been diet. I did ask at the vets, especially when we got Luna. My son was like, no more cats. And then he was like, can we have this one, this kitten? She was the one thing that made him really, really happy after all the abuse that we went through. And of course I said yeah. And she developed a really bad skin issue, really bad. I seemed to be allergic to just about everything. And I thought, is it cleaner? Is it this? Is it that? And I did process of elimination, took things away, brought it back. And then I had it was just, I thought, was it stress? Is it this? Is it that? It's really, really difficult. And I was just sitting on a vegan cat group on Facebook, and it was like, what is causing these issues? And people were saying, oh, it's what you're feeding your cats. You need to be putting your cats on this and this. And I thought, I can't afford this. It's expensive. I never thought that the bag, the size of food that they do for like 50 quid is going to be a huge bag. I just thought, I can't do it. There's 50 quid bags, and then there's there's a lot more cheaper ones, but obviously you're going to have to be ordering them more. So yeah, it was stressful because I was trying to find out what was wrong. I'd take Luna backwards and forwards to the vet. She'd be given injections to calm the skin down and the itching. And I'd be like thinking, what do I do? And I tried a few other things. I tried taking things away. I had a few other cats with issues that wasn't diarrhea, but it was very loose poop, and it was horrible. And I just try introducing different foods. You think you're doing more good. You're thinking you're doing good, but it's causing no different, you know. So yeah, the cats, it was a huge thing for me. I did a lot more research. We had to move. There was the stress of that. The panic of moving, packing, sorting things out. I thought, is it that's causing it? I had the eldest cat that I had, Nina, she was put to sleep. She was age 22. She'd had a lot of health issues. And we'd had all this with COVID and the lockdowns and everything else. And she was just fantastic. I loved her to bits. But she was very, very old, and she was really, really struggling. She was just like lying down, no life whatsoever. So I took her to be put to sleep. We were there at the vet's for an hour. The vet was fantastic. He was giving me as much time with her as possible. Amazing. So yeah, and then after we moved, we had Bob that suddenly was like with kidney failure and struggling, really struggling. And I also had Luna that was really, really scratching away in her skin and causing like great big scabs around her neck area and stuff. And I think, what the hell is causing this? Sorry, I had an itch. What the hell is causing this? And the vet was like, it could be something she's eating. It could be stress related. Give you, get the plugins, try that, try this, try that. I was like, I tried everything. And then she says, oh, I think it's food related. So, yeah, Bob was put to sleep with his kidney failure. And then I had Luna with her skin issues, still going backwards and forwards to the vets for injections and skin relief and things like that. Anything to try and help her. The cats were stressed out with moving, different sounds to get used to in the flat. That was the harder part for me, because we lived in a house and suddenly you've got the noise of like persons, shutting doors and footsteps and people walking by the windows and stuff like that, So it was a big change for them. Minnie hid for about 2 weeks. She came out for food at times and then she'd go back into a hidey hole. Okay, so Bob was put to sleep and then we started getting more and more issues with Charlie and his health. He had gingivitis, which is the teeth. They were really, really bad. But because he'd lost so much weight and he had thyroid issues, until he put weight on, they couldn't operate on him to do his teeth. And we had this at the previous vets, discussions and injections and needles and, and tablets, blood tests to be done galore. We moved. I had to go by priority. Bob was the one that needed the help the most, and obviously Luna with her skin. And it was a case of, what do I do now? I kept being on the vegan cat group. I took it all in with a, pinch of salt, thinking, oh God, this sounds like really hard work. Is there any truth in it or no? And as a vegan, I hated feeding the cats cat food, which is made from animals. But at the time, you sort of see this tin and you see the cubes and you just assume that it is from that animal that's labelled on the front of the tin. And anyway, after Charlie had passed, he was our alpha male in this pack of cats. We had then got Alfie, we got Cosmo and Percy as kittens, and they were having kitten food. The lady who I had Percy off, she had sphinxes and all sorts of other breeds. No domestic cats. These are all like really sort of more exotic type cats. But mainly sphinxes she had, and they were beautiful. And she said she fed them Tesco's cat food. I was like, okay. Not quite what I expected to hear a woman that has like all these fancy cats. What she fed them, but hey ho. So I decided, I wanted to continue what Percy was being fed. So I went to Tesco's, bought their food, and then I saw that the tins were actually cheaper there than buying the whiskers that I was putting them on at the moment. And they've been on a mixture of various brands, whiskers, go-kart, the ones that I could afford for the amount of cats that I had. So I got kitten food as well as for the older cats, and then it was a case of, do you know what, you can't, and basically the kittens were eating what the adults were eating. I couldn't separate them all. I couldn't keep them all separate, and sometimes there's bits left in the dish, and it got to the point of where the cats were all wanting, the older cats wanted what the kittens were eating, and the kittens wanted what the older ones were eating if their teeth could allow it. So I thought, do you know what? Sod this. I'll do a mixture. And I did a buffet type thing. I gave the kittens theirs, tried to keep it separate as much as possible. But they started to think, do you know what? I want the other stuff. And I thought, well, perhaps the poos that Percy had were really, really messy. They weren't very nice at all. Cosmos weren't great either. I thought maybe it's because they're kittens and they're going in for the older stuff. But then I had Minnie with really bad poops, and sometimes there'd be a bit of blood in there, and she'd be really, really not good with it. I've had them checked, and it was like a form of IBS. Take a look at what you eat, what you're feeding them type thing. And the vets wanted me to buy some really fancy stuff that they had at the vets that I couldn't afford. But also she said that there's a chance that your cats aren't going to eat this. I've had this before with the kidney medication that's in the form of a pate, and the cats don't always want to eat it. She said it's a waste of money in our opinion, but hey, we have to ask if you want to try it on your cat or not. And I was like, So anyway, it was just getting horrible. It was getting really, really bad. And I tried so many extra different things. I'll try this dried, try that dried. I'd gone through, we went on to Purina 1, the big bags of that, and the mess was just awful. Then we went on to the sensitive version of that. Then we went on to, what else did we go on to? Harrington's. Tried that for about 6 to 8 weeks. So it's not like as if I was doing it for a week and like that's it. It's not working. No, I'd really give it a good go. They kept on with the Tesco's cat food. And then what else did I try? Can't remember now. IAMS, that's it. So I laid off. First of all, it was like the chicken one I had for them. They were still really being poorly. So I thought, right, I will go on to, because some people were putting, oh, it's chicken. It's the chicken one that's causing the issue. So I went on to the fish one, thinking I was doing some good. And then it was still really bad. And I thought, what the fuck? You know, I was having to bath Percy. That's how bad it was. I was having to put like some water in the sink and, you know, just give him a wipe down because he was really, really pooey and horrible. And I just thought, this is no fun for him. It's not fun for the other cats. I mean, the only one out of 7, I had Gizmo, Alfie and Elsa that were okay. Although Elsie and Elsa could be a bit iffy sometimes, depending on, and I noticed that happened when I gave them treats. If they were reasonable, and then suddenly they had like those licky lick pouch things. I got to realise that within an hour of having one of those pouches, they would be poorly. The treats that they would have that were like Tesco's own cheese cat stuff, if they had so many of them, they were poorly. If they had some sticks from Marks and Spencer's that were for cats, within an hour they were poorly. I was like, this was going across the board more with them all, really. And I just thought, I can't be doing with this. I looked at other options. I mean, I went on Facebook sites and, you know, for cats, and I spoke to various Sphinx owners, and they were like, oh, you need to be putting them on a raw diet, your cats. And I'm thinking, I don't fancy that. I did have a look. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to have to look into it. So I'd look on websites that people were sending me links to, and I opened them up and had a look. And it's like they'd list the animal, you know, day old chicks, ground, horse. They were very specific on animals. And I just thought, you know, it's like you go into, I forget what you call it now, but it's like your brain, you go back to almost like being before you were vegan, and you know, you go down the meat aisle and you'd see the body parts wrapped up in the packaging, and nice grazed cows, and you know, fields on the front of the label, or chickens running around outside in a farmyard type thing on the box of eggs. It's like almost like that, the disconnection, isn't it? That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, the disconnection. You sort of think to yourself, oh, that's what's in this tin. That's what's in this bag of food, and you just sort of think that's it. And it's only when I started doing some research really on the meats that are actually labelled and the meat derivatives, that's the thing. Once I started researching what is meat derivatives in cat food, and they put that basically it could be absolutely anything that is classed as not suitable for human intake really. So it's all the bits and pieces that end up in a bin. Imagine a slaughterhouse where they slaughter the animals, and then they've got the big bins, and they've got the heads and the necks, the innards, and all the bits that are pulled out and put into a bin to be wasted, if you like, are put in for pet food. It can be day-old chicks ground up. It can be cows that are like the ones that are spent, that are struggling to walk, that may be pregnant, and you know, you don't know what happens to their fetus, do you? There's all that sort of stuff. And then yeah, I was having a really good browse on several websites, and it was mentioned about that, what actually does go into regular cat foods, and even the posh ones can have this labelled meat derivatives in there. They also put beaks, the feet, you know, all sorts of bits to fill it all up. They'll also have dairy in there. So they say that cats are lactose intolerant, but there's dairy that ends up going into cat food. And then there's eggs that go in there as well. You know, there might be cracked eggs that end up in there. So it's all the bits that are classed as not suitable for humans, but so it's all just a bin of stuff, whatever is like works out the cheapest. And then you never know what actually is going to be going into the biscuits as well. I mean, when I had a good look, and I picked up the bag of IAMs, on the back of it, it actually said that it was I avoided chicken from the biscuits that I had because I feel that the chicken was causing issues. And then I go into the fish bag and look on the ingredients and what's on there, chicken. So I just thought, you know what, forget it. I'm going to look into this. I'm going to start ordering, because I was getting fed up with finding loose poos near to the tray, not actually making it inside the tray, the cats. So I thought, this has got to stop. And that's exactly what I've done. So I ordered the Benevo cat food, and I ordered the biscuits, and I basically started crossing them over as soon as it came in the post. So I put a handful of the benevo and then a handful of biscuits in, and gradually over time I've put less and less of the IMs to the point of like where there was none in there. When I went through the bag of benevo, because they were all right with it, but they weren't 100% interested in it. I just thought, you know what, I'll go with the army one, because when I got a little sample pack, I thought I'll try them on that, and they seemed to like it. I did it as treats. I just randomly threw them at them, and they enjoyed them. So that's what I did. And then I ordered some, and they've been absolutely woofing it down. And then I ran out. I was trying to order, couldn't afford to get a bag because of the postage side of things. So I had to wait till my money went in. And then when my money went in, I ordered, and I thought that they would have got onto it with sending it out, but they haven't. So I've had to make do. I've ordered off another website as well, something else to try for them. And I thought, you know what? I really need to get something in, because all I had was what was left in the way of their biscuits, and that was not very much at all. Like, I knew between 7 bowls, it isn't going to happen. I'm going to be able to run out after 7 dishes is gone. That's it. That'll be it. So I thought I need to, what are the alternatives? I've got some of the old food that they were having from Tesco's. So I'd opened some of that up, and I had some pumpkin puree, pure pumpkin puree, which is meant to be good for digestion. So I basically got one of their big food bowls, and I just emptied so much in of the food and so much of the pumpkin, and I just combined it because it's supposed to be really good for digestion. I know a few people that use pumpkin. And I just mated it out. But the trouble is, though, I knew that as soon as I start giving them this shitty stuff, they're going to be back to the old ways pretty soon of, loose poops and all the rest of it again. And last night they were digging galore in and out, and I thought, here we go again. But there was nothing else I could do. And yesterday I did go to Just for Pets and have a look. And I looked for a hypoallergenic brand that's called Lovebug, and they do use insects instead of animal products, and there's no animal derivatives in there and then there's just insects. So there's no there's no like chicken and pigs. There's no there's just none of all the nasties that are in the regular cat foods. And I went for that, and they didn't have any. So I went home yesterday, and it was like back to the drawing board. But I've still got to use what I've got here. And then today I nipped back out after having another dig on the internet and found this one that's called whatever it's called. I did a video on it earlier on, that contains beetroot, seaweed, pumpkin, and it's made from insects. There's absolutely no farmed animals in there whatsoever. And I just think to myself, it does make sense, because to be honest, in your home, you have a fly that big blue bottle that comes through your living room and whatnot. What the cat's going to do, they're going to chase it and eat it. Spider runs across your living room. What do? Catch it and eat it. They eat the bugs. So I thought, you know what? This makes so much sense to me. Is it right or wrong to do this? But I just think, well, if there was a spider running across my living room floor now, they'd eat it. So dietary wise, it makes sense. They don't go out and hunt. If they were to go outside, they wouldn't go looking for, if there was a field with farmed animals in it, they wouldn't go for any of those. So why is it all shoved in animal products? So what I'm going to do, because it does say on the box that it is very good for their, it's good for protein, it's good for this, it's good for that. And I thought, well, I'm going to focus on using the Benevo and the Army, but I will use this sort of thing as like a random treat thing for them. So it's incorporated into their eating animal sounds. Yeah, so it's incorporated into their eating non-animal farmed animal products. And I've got more control. They seem to really like the Army. Absolutely love that. So yeah, and everything is a lot better since when I went on Benevo with them. I've had somebody that sent me a lovely comment about me feeding them vegan food, and you know, I get it all the time, and I'm like, do you know what, these cats are thriving, they're doing really well. It's cruel to feed them animal products when their bodies can't cope with it. That's cruel. This isn't cruel. This is doing what's best for these guys, which are all sleeping right now. Yeah. So anyway, I thought I'd do an update that we are still carrying on with it all. I have had a little bit of a blip because I ran out. But I am at the moment incorporating something else in that I never knew really existed. Which makes a bit more sense to use in cat foods than actual farmed animals. So yeah, I shall do another video again soon, but I just thought I'd do a little update. Right, I shall love and leave. Catch you later.